What's up, guys? What's going on? Give me one moment to get situated. Let me turn off the sound. Or should I leave the sound in? We'll turn it off for this one. We will turn the music off for this one. Okay. So, how is everybody doing? Good evening. It is 4:36 p.m. New York time on Friday, December 18th. And, oh shit, I do not have a camera on this one. Not a big deal. I didn't even think of that. I unplugged, I did a bunch of wire organization in the back of my computer, and I didn't plug my my camera back in. I think I plugged my, looks like I plugged my watch charger in that USB. Anyway, how's everybody doing? We'll go without the camera, no big deal. How is everybody doing? Have a few people in the stream. Cool. In the money, that's how I'm doing. Good stuff. Sound is good, obviously. I like to see that. Got a good amount of people. This is, this again normally is either 12 or 1, and today we switched it up. I said last week that Fridays would be not tentative, but, sometimes when the market is moving, I cannot do a stream. That's just the way it is. And, the YouTube streams are free, so, you don't really have a say. And for those who can show up, that's cool. For those who can't, that's the purpose of the replay. So what's going on, everybody? Let's see. App Eagle, not sure what your comment means at all, but how's it going? Randall, what's going on? Dave, how's it going? All right. D, what's up, man? Jason, J.E., Frog the Frog. All right. Keld, how's it going, man? David, Vinny, D. Ross, what's going on? Okay. Hervaten. Okay, I'm going to try to say that correctly. Yusuf, what's up? Tybalt, what's going on, pal? All right. Dubsva. Okay. All right, cool, guys. So I feel like now is a decent time to do a stream. I actually just closed out a long, so I'm willing to stay out of the market right now. We're going to go over why I took the long, what is sort of setting up for BTC, and I'm just going to go over some charts, really. There's really no plan to get into anything else. So just go into some charts, keep a nice casual mood for Friday, going into the weekend, take some chart requests, and for anyone who's new, we normally do the streams Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Mondays and Wednesdays have been consistently, I would say they're not as consistent lately with the timing, around either scheduled at 12 or 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And today, obviously, at a later hour. So, so on behalf of myself, my name is Ryan, aka Kenrick Clark on Twitter, and my partner Josh Rager. I want to thank you guys for tuning into the BlockRoots YouTube stream, your source for non-sensational technical market analysis and pretty much anything with regard to crypto, besides anything that gets too heavy into the fundamentals. That's not our area of competence. We are heavy on the technicals, heavy on trading. I have spent most of my time trading BTC, and that changed somewhat recently, where I've actually been a lot more active in alts, which I would, I used to refer to them as shit coins, and it was kind of understood that I was primarily a BTC trader, and when opportunities arise and it's liquid enough, I'll play in other things as well, right? That's really what the constraint is. It's a matter of liquidity and is it worth it. And my partner Josh Rager, he is heavy in the DeFi space. So yes, thank you for tuning in. There's not a whole lot to get over in the beginning. I want to take a look at BTC right away. If you guys have any charts that you are maybe interested in me taking a look at, feel free to add that into the chat. I'm taking a look at the chat on the other side of the screen. Let me just pop it out real quick. Go ahead and hit that like button for us. We really would appreciate that. I've gone over this before. I really hate saying that, but we do want to be prioritized by the YouTube algo. We think that we put out better among some of the best analysis in the space, and I think we kind of crush the crypto YouTubers in terms of experience and just a level of proficiency. And there's other YouTubers in crypto as well that I'm not applying that term to everybody, because obviously there are a lot of more popular Twitter accounts that have also begun to stake a claim in the crypto YouTube space, or YouTube's crypto space, because there's a lot of really ridiculous characters in the space. So I've always said, I recommend checking out other streams as well. Crypto Cred, Don Alt, they put together a really good stream. Karush has a really good stream. Some of the more popular players from CT or Crypto Twitter are making the way over here, and I think that anything is better than what the current state of things was, or what the current state of things were in crypto YouTube, with just like the sensationalist bullshit. So yeah, we try to bring I guess a level of I don't know, not only accuracy, but a lack of just sensationalism, right? No snake oil crap. Tell it, say it how it is, kind of thing. Straight talk. So, all right. Uni, okay. XRP, of course. All right. EGLD. All right, good stuff. So I have some of these already up on the watch list. Yeah, and as I go, I'll make sure to hit on them, as long as that list doesn't become too ridiculous. I won't be charting anything that is, barely traded. I'll look at your pair immediately and tell you what I think. But okay, so first things first with BTC. Just something that I've noticed, guys, and this is and let me get these out of the way. So I have two tapes on the screen, as you can see. Let me just see what you can see, actually. Okay, so let me make the screen space a little bit better. So I have the Agger for spot and Agger for futures. Let me extend this a little bit. All right, so now we have a little bit more screen real estate. As a reminder, if you're not already subscribed to the stream, there should be a subscribe button right around here. So go ahead and click the subscribe button. And we're going to be giving away in the stream. I forgot I do have to say something in the beginning, just to touch on some of the things we're going to get to. We are going to be giving away not $100, excuse me. It's 0.01 BTC to one of the lucky people who commented on this post right here. So I'm going to use a random number generator and then go through the likes and pick one of the people to win 0.01 BTC, which at these values is what, around $230, right? So that is, it's interesting, because I'm going to be giving away ultimately 0.01 BTC every day until the end of December. So what's that, 14 days in total, so 0.14 or 0.13 BTC, and who knows what that could be in the future, right? Who knows how much money I'm actually giving away, which is pretty exciting, right? So anyway, all right. First things first. One thing that I noticed, there's a website that I've been sharing called viewbase.com. They offer the funding as well across exchanges. What I have noticed is that this BYBT, so it's like Bybit if you're spelling it phonetically, this is accurate. The Viewbase isn't accurate for some reason. So I've gone through the exchanges, and we're looking at funding rates right now for the perpetual swaps, token margin, USDT margin, USD margin, and I've checked each one of these, and on the Viewbase, it's inaccurate. So on Viewbase, it'll say like Bybit's funding is 1 basis point when it's actually 9. So, excuse me, I have the burps. I'm drinking my Pellegrino. So just keep that in mind, because I have shared that website before. For some reason, it is it's not accurate. But I have heard that Bybit, its API call or whatever is necessary to get this information, it's a little problematic. I know that because when I'm on my CoinMarketMan account, where I have all my trading performance, you constantly have to refresh it, and it actually says like Bybit's a pain in the butt. Not in those exact words, but Bybit's API, for some reason, it doesn't update the website like the others do. So maybe that's one of the issues, but nevertheless, you still want to have accurate, up-to-date information with regards to this if you're going to be referring to it, right? So if you're looking at viewbase.com, you might say, hey, Bybit's funding is neutral. It's 1 basis point, when reality is it's closer to 10 basis points. So it's closer to, you know 10% of 1%. I like to say, for anyone who's not familiar with the term basis points, it's 1/100th of a percent. So okay, so let's take a look at BTC. And I have some levels on here right now, and these are not, no, this is not, you know, the midpoint of a range. This is not your standard range setup. This is just yesterday's value area high and value area low. So I think the one thing to really focus on is not getting yourself in a position of, after a market has moved up, especially now that we've broken out of the all-time high, after a market has moved up this much, to always just assume that if you're not going to continue up, then you're going to be reversing, right? So instead, what we're expecting is clearly a market is going to consolidate. It's going to pause and take a breather and sort itself out. And you're going to go from a period of value migration, right? So value areas in a trending market rising or either dropping. In this case, clearly rising in an uptrend. And after you begin to have value overlap, so we have a day that opened up inside of value, has spent the majority of its time within yesterday's value, you're not expecting this to reverse. You're just expecting a range to continue. This is saying, hey, we're starting to, you know, today's structure is fitting really nicely within yesterday's trading range. Okay, it's very much accepted within this value area. So you look for signs of imbalance at the extremes. Okay, you look for signs of rejection where price has been rejected before. You don't just assume like, oh, okay, what goes up must continue to go up at the same rate of speed, otherwise it will go down, right, at an equal and opposite speed. Or, you know, go in the opposite direction in the same sort of manner it traveled upward. So, you know, I wake up on Twitter this morning and where I just, you know, look on my feed, and it's kind of like people calling for the retrace of this move. And that's just not anything that we're seeing right now. Okay, so we have yesterday's value area high, yesterday's value area low, and you play the range until something changes. And what you have to do is really just repeat that rhyme to yourself over and over again. So you play the range until something changes. So this is where 70% of the activity took place. This is where 70% of the volume took place. In this area, we've spent the entirety of our day, right? So within yesterday's value area low, within yesterday's value area high, within where most of the trading took place, we're very comfortable in this area. We're very much at ease. Buyers and sellers are relatively neutral, okay? So not the best area to get involved where we currently are right now. So that's why I closed out my long. We're technically, you know, in these conditions, right, where you're in an uptrend, the midpoint of the range might be a good area to build or rather compound maybe into a long that you already have, right, already have established, or at least you can sort of justify getting into a long position on the assumption of continuation, because ultimately something that takes place like this is really just a flag, right? So if it's beginning to form a higher low, you know, ultimately around yesterday's midpoint of the structure, around the point of control, if we're starting to do that today, well, then maybe we're going to end up sending it up further. But I took a trade off of the value area low back up to the point of control because that was the first sticky area between us. And it's not necessarily that, you know, this trend is going to resume immediately. I think it's going to resume, but I think that we could very well put in, you know, a 2-3 day range. So I'm taking the trades that are right in front of me at really what is referred to either as the first sticky point, the first trouble area, and that is returning back to where we were very much accepted yesterday. So if we zoom in on this structure, or if we look, rather I'll just look at the trading view chart. So we rotate back down to the value area, all right, really in a time where really yesterday we've only visited this one day, right? So we had, you know, this rounded low into here, but this is just the second day. So just the second day visit. And again, this is a buying opportunity, right? You see that most of the activity was confined within here. You're going to look for the imbalances to occur at the extremes, right? The imbalance in the case of returning to this low would be an imbalance where buyers are able to overpower sellers, right? Either that or they're able to absorb sellers. And you had that this morning. Price unable to close through this low. Okay, so unable to make an effort past the lows of yesterday after the trending day, right? So not the lows of yesterday, but in the pullback. So really what you're looking for is mean reversion between this value area to continue, right? So yesterday we had it, most of the activity between here, and then today what you're looking for is the same sort of pattern to occur, and ultimately from the low, you know, likely back up to the high. And then if we gain acceptance above that high, then that's a different story. But we're not just looking at a structure that makes a significant move up and thinking, okay, now it's going to, if it's not going to continue up right away, it's going to continue down, right, with the same level of force. Okay, so value overlap. So you have essentially what is setting up as an inside day. So it's a trend, really. So it's not like the best inside day setup. Better inside day setup would be if you had, this is somewhat balanced towards the end of the day. It didn't start off balanced. It was almost a one time framing day. So from open, you had a very impulsive move up. But it ended up pretty balanced at the high. You can see that this is relatively symmetrical if you're just looking at this portion of the distribution. A better inside day setup would be if you had a balanced day, and then, here's your value area for the balanced day, and then the next day was completely, within the prior balanced day, and if the value area was also confined to the prior day's value area as well. So when you have a setup like this, and let's see if we can just find one real quick, just to show you that it's not all about the drawings. I want to find something that actually matches. Let's look for inside day, inside day. It's almost one right here, right? So this is almost an inside day setup. So you have value overlap. This is the high, so it doesn't qualify because he ended up, well, technically, the market opened here, I guess rotated down, made a move up, and then opened here again, and then still remained balanced within this area. The inside day would be if it was perfectly within. So if this was perfectly within the structure, right, and this value area was the majority of the time spent within here, then the inside day break, right, so the break of either the high or the low would have, that much more, likely that much more strength behind it, right, because what this is a structure that is compressing and it's bottlenecking, right? So back to where we currently are, I think that you could just expect that this range will offer good trading opportunities, but you can, I think, give a little bit more weight to the long side of things for sure, right? So what do I mean by that? If we're looking at this structure, and again, all we're doing right now, when we're looking between these green lines are yesterday's value area high and value area low. So now we're familiar with that. This black line right here is not the midpoint, it's today's open. Okay, so opened, moved back down to the value area low, and now we're back above today's open. We're ultimately looking at if we can maintain today's open and maintain the point of control from yesterday, so where most of the activity and also where VWAP was, which is right around here. So excuse me, that is, why don't we just get precise, right around here. So that is 2280, 2270 for the volume point of control. So 2280, 2270, pretty much yet today's open, right? So if we can maintain today's open, you're looking at an immediate target of, the next significant area of around 23,354. And you have to weigh context, right? So is this a target where you should take it all off? Maybe should you look for signs of absorption through here and consider maybe adding, holding off and waiting for the retest, right? That's all to be determined. I certainly wouldn't, and I say this with utmost sincerity and I think conviction, I certainly wouldn't be looking to short this, right? So normally if you have a structure that has been respecting a range, right, let's just say that this has been more of a balanced period up to this point, leading up to this, it wasn't a really strong trend. Well, then maybe we would give equal weighting, or at least it would be kind of close, playing the lows for longs and the highs for shorts, right? We would be sort of biased towards, leaning to the possibility that would be, that would be something that would be worth looking for. But in this case, I don't think that you want to look at the market this way right now. I don't think that you want to say, oh, okay, this structurally the setup is we're approaching that setup. I just think that it might look like that many times and you just get blown out. So you could have many technical setups, but you could have, the same technical setup, but in completely different conditions, and it yield completely different results. And sometimes not even offer any result whatsoever, at least a positive result, or at least any kind of meaningful kickback to offer you any return. So that being said, in terms of opportunities that I would say I would still be willing to play, now that this low has been tested, and there has been a significant test, though it wasn't a take of the low, this low did show absorption. So if we look at the CVD over the course of this structure, it has been the case actually that we are making lower lows. We're beginning to see that OI is actually curling up. So this is good, right? This is really good if you're starting to see that you're keeping this structure. So if you start to see that we're maintaining today, if we end up closing above today's open, right, we're maintaining the top half of this portion, then I think that you can, with a high level of certainty, say that, all right, we've trapped a considerable amount of activity down here. The CVD over time is showing that it's moving down. You have that absorption, and if you're maintaining the top side of this structure, right, so if we're looking at this almost as if it was the mid and this was the high and this is the low, well then why can't this be a good opportunity to enter into a continuation that is now forming a higher low within and is looking to just break the high before continuing? So yeah, you can look at this sort of the way you would look at a lower time frame flag, right? Where you have a flagging structure and you'll say, okay, maybe I'll enter on the sign of support off the midpoint, place my stop below the low, and let it ride from there. And that is basically, though, taking for granted this high. So you're saying that it's just going to continue through here, but at least in this case, you have the wind at your back, you have signs of absorption at the low, right? So between CVD continuing down and OI continuing up, you have those indications and you're back above VWAP, you've tested the low, current conditions and context are in a certain, current context is in a certain condition where it's, again, the best way to put it is the wind is at your back, right? You're swimming with the current. So you could afford to take a trade like that, in my opinion. And this soon, because I don't think that we've seen I don't think we're going to see any major correction. So other than that, another opportunity I actually would look to take is if we do take these lows and then we reclaim the value area. So we didn't take this low out yet. So it's completely possible that we don't sweep lows, right? There's sort of this assumption that certain things always need to be done. And you have to remember that in a market that is potentially being just bid up by a ridiculous amount of larger players now, that any kind of 1%, 2% drop is being seen as an opportunity for someone to get in before someone else. So I don't think you're seeing a lot of reluctance right now by sideline participants, which means that your corrections can be much more shallow. So you might not get this, stop hunt down here. And if anything, if we look at, how today's structure is beginning to close out, you have a decent low down here. So it's not like you have a low today to hunt. It's possible though, but again, it doesn't have to happen, and it never has to happen, but it's usually something that we sort of set ourselves up to look for. So we didn't get a sweep of the low, but that being said, let's say that we get something that curls down from here. If we sweep the low, right? If we come down to this low right now, I was way more inclined to buy this without the break of the low this morning than I would be to do that again. So I wouldn't say, hey, and just to clarify, I stepped in front of this morning. So I stepped in front of this and caught this and then added with a market order. So I would take a long off of this again if we came down below, swept it now, and then we're able to close back above. Okay, I wouldn't just step in front of this again blindly and get involved the way I did. But I figured, hey, this again is the three. I don't really focus too much on fibs, but if we look at this structure on the higher time frame right now, and I think that when you're in a really strong trend, fibs are useful. If we just look at the break point, you're looking at this area of confluence right now, lines up between the value area low and the 318 fib, which is this line right here. So in a fast moving trend, a lot of times that's the area that you'll see will get revisited and serve as a really strong support. You might over time come back down to the 618, but I think it's entirely possible that we just continue riding right off of the 382, right? I don't know if I said 318 before, but this is we're looking at, I think I have them set up right now to the 382, the 618. Yeah, I have the 0.5, just making sure it wasn't the 286. So yeah, that's it's definitely something to consider. This is an area where you're going to have a lot of traders just systematically bid this, all right, just because of that fib. And whether I anchor it from one point and it's not close enough to where you anchor it, it's still in the same, it's the general area, right? From the highs, even if you went like that, from the high of the structure, so the break of that, you're looking at now a 386, or what the fuck is it, a 3? It is. I have 382. So I don't use fibs, right? I only use fibs if we are in a fast-moving trend or a significant early breakout. So that does line up nicely. Another trade I would be looking to take, I'm actually, just to clarify, I'm not really setting myself up right now thinking, hey, I'm going to look for this trade, meaning the trade that I talked about where if this is just a flag and this is holding the mid and placing your stop below here, I'd probably place a tighter stop, and if I was stopped out of this, look to get re-involved if we reclaim this. But I'm not really thinking that I'm going to be taking this trade. That's why I actually hopped in the stream, because I closed out my trade already. One thing that I would be pretty gung-ho about is if we are maintaining support above, the 23,354. All right, so 23,354. Sometimes I say my numbers completely odd, just in this weirdest fucking way. I'm not familiar with these levels, right? It's not like we're used to saying Bitcoin in the 20s, over 20,000 or 5 digits, period. Well, 5 digits, I have to say, yeah, we've been in 5 digits for quite some time now, but over 20,000, that just doesn't click in my brain right away. So yeah, if we're able to close above the value area high of yesterday, I think that you get another breakout. And I think you're looking at, at least you're looking at a trade from here. So from 23 to 23.3, right? So just pretty much imagine this. We're looking at yesterday's value area high, and we're gaining acceptance into an area where we were rejected prior. You could look at the trade as a trade from 23, right? 23,354 up to the highs. But do you think in these conditions that after a consolidation, after a major breakout, that you claim the top of this range only to be extinguished right back up at the high? I don't think so. I think that you're going to, more often than not, be rewarded with overextension. So, that could mean 23,354, and I'm just saying that because I'm reading it, but you get the idea. It's just a general 23.35, right? 23,350, 23,400. The top side of this structure, if you're beginning to base out above there, I think you're probably looking at it gets kind of weird up here. There's really no, you could go by a fib extension, but I would just consider that this is a trade that I would probably put a trailing triggered stop on up here. So I have to think about that, because ultimately I think we're probably going to be up there. So if we gain acceptance above here, betting on overextension, what I would say is a triggered trailing stop up here, so that if we hit this, right, I have a triggered trailing stop. Let's say I put it back below this high, right? So then price triggers that stop. It's below this high, and in case that we just get the really ridiculous squeeze up, my stop will be dragged up with it. So I have to actually plan that out. Didn't think about that. So yeah, I think that trade can offer overextension. If we lose, let's say that we lose this low down here around 22,363, there's not really any significant supports structurally, right? Even if we look at the 4-hour, we don't have any. You look at the hour, you have to go down to the 30-minute chart to really see any kind of micro consolidation that occurred within this structure. Again, what kind of environment are we in right now? We're in a very bullish environment, so I think that anyone at this point is going to be reaching for anything, or everyone is going to be reaching for anything. So I think that, honestly, on the way down, if it came to it, the halfway point between this extension would offer a bounce. Okay, the 618 point between this extension would offer a bounce. Now, BlockRoots members know this from yesterday. I have bids down here. I have some bids that are just left down here, because I think that over time, you could revisit the 618. I was putting this out earlier. I just didn't take them off. I'm not going to take them off, because let's say we get some ridiculous scam wick. I would rather catch a scam wick closer to where the support is, right? This is still, and I have them placed right in this vicinity. This is still not in the best area to find a trade, but I think in these conditions, I'm more than willing to take a little bit more risk. Technically for this trade, the invalidation for the trade is somewhere down here, right? Because this trade could come back to this, and it would still be your higher time frame support retest, right? You wouldn't want that. If anything, I want to say, and I said this yesterday too, you want to always have an idea of where you would put a scamwick bid, I think, in these kind of conditions, because you could get lucky. But I think that now with how bullish things are, I was saying yesterday, hey, why not some scamwick bids down at 19.4, 19.3? I just don't see that the market allows you to get that far. I think that there's so many people looking to buy the dip that this area, while it is pretty thin in terms of structure, I think that you do have those players that are actually putting, firepower, or they're putting resting orders down here to take advantage of any opportunity. So, like in any kind of bullish trend, you're going to see that opportunities are jumped at. And I've used the example of if you drop the price of something that's valuable, people are going to jump at the opportunity. So that is that with BTC. There's no reason, I think the most important thing, there's no reason to expect any kind of reversal yet. Market is showing the first day of an inside value, right? Value overlap. You're just expecting a range. And the range opportunities that we have right now, I definitely would prioritize longs. If you lose this low and take out the low and we reclaim it, right? If you reclaim the top side of yesterday's value area, I think that leads to expansion. You can say, 23,350 up to 24, right? As a target, 23.9. But you're more than likely going to get overextension, right? I don't think that you get rejected heavily at these highs again, not in these conditions. Let me just pop out the chat and then look at some of the other pairs I think are interesting. So what do I think about 4-year bull cycles? Will it repeat itself and BTC tops it? I don't know. I think that this cycle will last. Bitcoin has had this really perfect structure now for the last 12 years of repetition, where it seemed like it has been very close in terms of previous structures and cycles. I don't think that we deviate too much from that. Let me just put on the Bitstamp chart. Where's the Bitstamp chart? Okay, here we go. I don't think we honestly deviate from that too much. So I think that this is pretty sick how perfect this is in terms of timing and post-halving, how this has behaved, right, with some minor differences that are really just due to lack of liquidity and a maturing market. I think that moving into the future, that if you're expecting any time for it to be different, it might be now, but I'm not really sure, honestly. I definitely think that the bull market has at least 12 months lifespan. So I think you're looking at, I'd say, at least a 9-month lifespan, 9 to 16 months. Just erring on the side of caution. You have to have an idea of where you're going to take profit. Just as a reminder, you cannot think that you're holding this forever. It sounds, like you hear people talk about it like that, but you have to have an idea of where you are getting out. And you just have to remember that you cannot sell the top. You cannot plan on selling the top. Some people will get lucky. You'll know someone who sold the top. But for you to sit and try and tell yourself that you are going to sell this top, you are not going to sell the top. Of course, one of you will, by just statistics alone, right? There will be an outlier. There will be someone who's lucky and, lands on the proper area of the wheel. Trying to make a reference to roulette, but I don't fucking play it. There will be someone who does sell the top, but you are not. It's not in your best interest to bet on yourself trying to do that. So you have to have an idea of where you're getting out. I have areas that I'm going to be taking profit for sure. And reevaluating early on, right? So I have areas where I'm going to split, reevaluate, and then I have areas where I'm definitely. I think that if we get to 100K BTC, I'm more than happy to not give a shit about 4xing from there, right? So put it that way. And that's not me saying that 100x is 100,000 is my number, but it's me saying that I'm, just to show you some level of restraint. People are saying 400K BTC right now. I will be selling. If we got up to 100K BTC, I promise you I'll sell all of my Bitcoin. If we start basing out from there, that's cool. But at this point, it's 100K BTC implies a certain size market, and it's just most of the return is in the rear view. You just have to live with that reality. All right. Okay. Yeah, Tommy, spot on. 100%, Tommy. Only people who aren't in are looking for reasons to retrace. 100%. I totally think that bears are the same way too. That it's like people who are really upset because they didn't get enough BTC. Um, there's a comforting thought. The idea of Bitcoin retracing is comforting if you're not in it, right? Um, and it's easy to convince yourself that it's not worth buying at market at higher prices because it's going to pull back because it always has. And you just forget that those 30% pullbacks, those 20% pullbacks, they didn't happen where people wanted them to. They happened where they happened. And it could happen when we're up at 30K. And it means that it only pulls back to where we currently are. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, so I'm going to go over these charts because I actually have most of the charts you guys are listening. So first things first, Aave. I think Aave, SNX, you could kind of put them in the category, of their own, or rather with each other in being DeFi blue chips. Aave right now, I have to put on a higher time frame Aave chart, a longer term one. So let's see, Aave BTC. This should be a little bit longer. Aave showing relative weakness to BTC only of the last few days, but Aave in terms of higher time frame trend, I think they were absolutely just consolidating right now before putting in another leg up. So this is showing tremendous amount of strength in the last month, for sure. It's been showing an incredible amount of strength for the entire year. This and SNX are your DeFi blue chips. If I look at Aave in terms of local structure, I think that clearly you have a very obvious consolidation that is putting in higher lows right now, right? It's basically like I just fucking described the chart as if you guys couldn't see it. But this is a coiling of, this kind of volatility compression usually leads to one thing, and that is a big expansion. So in terms of what kind of trigger, right? I think that if you're conservative, obviously you could go based on the high of the daily close up here. But, at that point, this is the sort of the little weak spot of the dam that when we gain that level, you're going to see probably a decent amount of extension pretty fast where you don't get the best entry. So I'm in Aave and I added back here, and I've been talking about this for a really long time now. I think that there's a few things that stand out. You have this sort of diagonal that has been respected. This is a two tap though, not anything that is tremendously reinforced over time. Clearly the high of the structure, but you typically see that this type of structure resolves itself in a very impulsive fashion. My bet is that Aave breaks above this $100 level and probably heads up to 130. And if we look at Aave, this is Aave on Binance, but I think there might be a longer term Aave chart. Let's see. Is Aave on? No. Let's see. Aave up. I don't know where it is, but either way, it's. I think that 100 breaks and 130 is your next target. We've shared this in the newsletter plenty of times. Algo, right? Algo is not looking that hot against BTC, but in terms of the USD chart, right? One thing that stands out is you've had this area of resistance that's been around sort of 37, 36 cents now for the last. This is going all the way back into September. You can see we actually just broke outside of this weekly resistance, weekly structure that we had that has been sort of our turning point for the weekly opens, weekly closes for the last couple of weeks. And actually it's, couple is a technical term for two, right? This is going back the last couple of months. So if we're accepted above, if we maintain acceptance above, we're looking at, I said 37, but we're above that weekly at 33. I think that you're just going to see this expand upward, and this is one of those Coinbase plays that is cheap, and it'd probably be looked at favorably by a lot of new retail. So I think ultimately you're looking at a target of 45 and then 57 back up to this prior consolidation. And then the entire structure at that point, it kind of reminds me of the way Link moves, where you have this sort of grinding pattern through resistances. It ends up making something that looks, it takes over this resistance. Okay, ends up finding support above there and continues to do this up, which is kind of frustrating because then you ultimately, you're always second guessing whether the move is coming. But if we look at Link, it's sort of the same pattern that Link has put in on the way up, right? Sort of the same pattern that we have over here where it's constantly coming back and forth. But I think that there is one direction for Algo. I think it's going to continue upward. Band, something that I think I wanted to point this out just because the level of compression that you have right here. So band, obviously, this $8 level is pretty significant. That being said, look how tight this range is becoming. So we're looking at band as, on the higher time frame, a very strong trend, going all the way back to April, right? Very strong trend, hitting at $1.21 all the way from 22 cents. Okay, so that is ridiculous, showing relative weakness to BTC right now. But if we look at the fact that right now we're close to where the opening price was, this is on Binance. All right, we have this very obvious, I should use this button, I'm using the wrong button. We have this very obvious level of resistance right around, I'd say extended up to 8, right around 8, going into 8, sort of a you shall not pass level. I think that if you break that, you're ultimately looking at around 1160, 1150, right? Back to the sort of meaty point within this consolidation. But I wouldn't fade this if you break up above 8. I think that it is something that has been strong for a long time, and even though temporarily it's been weak, I think that it could continue up in that case. I don't know why I have that on. I want to do some of the one thing I definitely want to point out. Okay, ZIL. This been around for a really long time now. This didn't look too hot, and then now has begun to make a turn for the best. So this is our BTC chart, right? Most recently, major swing high is right around 200 sats. Okay, I think that this is I think it's making a pretty clear statement. So rather than continue to make structure back down to a prior significant level, we have completely turned and we're retracing this entire move. Haven't done that in a really long time. Haven't approached or haven't been able to approach a prior significant swing level. Okay, going back, months, going back a year. So, or this is actually going back to, no, this is going back to June. So this is looking semi-decent. On the USD pair, it's even better because what you have is a prior consolidation, right? Prior consolidation, big markdown, sort of swing failure pattern, rip up, retrace this entire move, and now the best case scenario, and what I would look for, and it might not give you another retrace because it might have happened right here, is you have this consolidation, you have another consolidation in the same area. Imagine that this is like the value area and price had been reaccepted within that. It goes back to the same behavior. And now, upon having this higher time frame reversal, upon putting in this consolidation, we've chosen a direction and it is to the upside. So I would expect, and this hasn't done shit as resistance, I would expect that ZIL goes on to outperform. And honestly, ZIL is at 4 cents now. And what was ZIL at one point? 26 cents. This is, the high of it was, going back on this chart, is 23 cents. I would expect that in this kind of condition, I think ZIL is on Coinbase too. A cheap coin like this can really run. And volume has really picked up for ZIL. And that's something that is a really useful thing to pay attention to as well, how relative volume has changed over time. So you're just looking at a story, right? Consolidation, battle, sellers in control, consolidation, battle. It looks like sellers are going to break this one down. Sorry, price completely changes course, reaccepted back within a prior war zone, right? This little battleground. And then instead, the market has put in a complete reversal. So now ultimately what you're doing is you're looking for, this is a weekly structure, right? So if we look at this on the daily, you can see you kind of did get that retest right here, broke outside of this value area. I want to say value area, that probably is, but broke outside of this range. That level's also the top side of this prior consolidation, right? So prior consolidation, prior consolidation. When price reaccepts back within a level that was a consolidation or a range, you expect it to do the same thing that it did prior when it was within it. So back to ranging. So now we have gained acceptance back above the top side of the structure. Look for the top side of the structure around, we're looking at even more confluence between, let's just extend the low of this prior consolidation, highs of this consolidation that followed, fails, and now ultimately you're looking at, I would say you're probably not going to revisit back too far down here. So you want this area to maintain as support. You probably get away with a loose stop somewhere back within this level, but expect that this is not just turning for no reason, right? This probably is going to continue with some momentum going into the bull market. And you could quote me on that. I think that this is I've just started to pay attention to this again. I think this is going to go on to outperform. Link, I said this morning, what was the level that I said this morning with Link? I think it was 14. So it was right here. Yeah, 1450. So we're looking at the high of this weekly. Right, Link is kind of, chopping around. I'm not really a fan of Link right now, the way it's acting. But you have the high of this weekly right here. All right, we're looking at the most local daily high as well. So I think that between these two areas, right, if you're above here, you satisfy one requirement, right? We've retaken a prior swing point that served to reject price at this little SR flip, right? So market makes a move up into prior consolidation, consolidates temporarily. This in the time being for that period right here is the support, extending that moving forward, acted as resistance. If we're going to reclaim this level, all right, if you're reclaiming 1450, you're back above the weekly level. And then I think, at that point, it's becoming just more clear that Link is a good long to play. I just don't like the way it looks around here and getting involved. I'd rather have higher time frame confirmation with Link. So, I was in and out of Link back here, so maybe it's because I was bitten a few times. I've been bitten a few times shorting Link going all the way back to 3, so we know how that goes. We know how that went, rather. But yeah, this is not, I don't know why Link is not the most compelling pair to me. I probably should get out of that mindset because it is kind of a cheap coin. But I just think that it has been a little bit disconnected from a lot of, or the remainder of the market more recently. In DeFi has kind of taken the lead. BTC, so if we're looking at Link BTC, I didn't just pull that out of my ass. It is completely underperforming BTC, right? So that's another major reason. I don't just not like a coin because of the, because of the ticker, right? This has to do with whether or not it is showing signs of strength or weakness. So this is your BTC chart. Next area of support, I'd say, is somewhere down within this level. I think that Link is probably going to end up doing something where it lost this level and then you're going to get a reclaim, which would be a great sign, right? Against BTC, if we start to see strength, that would be fantastic because otherwise you can't really justify being in a position that's underperforming Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin is way more liquid and it is sucking liquidity out of everything right now. So SNX, really happy with this. It finally moved. I didn't cut it like I cut it comp. Okay, I got into SNX again. I was in SNX and Aave for a really long time. I cut SNX though. And I'd be better off if I didn't cut it, right? Because I had not incurred the fees to exit the position and I still would have gotten here either way. But if we're looking at SNX right now, retaking this weekly high, okay, we're rather able to make a move through this weekly level, okay? So on the way down, all right, you have these multiple levels of price pivoting, plenty of violation on the way down. What you ultimately want to see in the trend up is for price to maintain one of the structural turning points that it put in on the way down. So it was kind of loose, but this again is something that, one, has a lot more price history than the Binance chart, has been putting in a ridiculously strong trend over time. So this one has tailwinds. Okay, if we look at SNX versus BTC, this is, nope, this is the longer term charts. What are they on? Are they on, they have to be on maybe KuCoin. Here we go. Okay, this should be it. There we go. So you have to remember that this chart has a lot more price history than on Binance. And when you look at this now, it's like, okay, this is, you're moving to the low that now has been completely reversed, right? So you're flipping the highs on the way down, treating them as support. It just only started to get a little bit muddy over here. But if you look at this on the weekly, again, that weekly high is local. Have the weekly highest close right here. You extend that back, you can see that that also is a weekly highest close back here. Not saying that arbitrarily, right? This is a significant resistance level over the last couple of, this is the last couple of months. So this spot over here has been a significant resistance. And I got into this prematurely, right? Because I've been in this now for the last, this has been over, I think, over a week at least now. And my assumption was it's consolidating at resistance, right? Consolidating at resistance, and it is a play on DeFi because it is one of the strongest DeFi pairs. So I think that with SNX now, maintaining this 522 weekly level, that would be big. Okay, we haven't had a daily close above here, so if we get the first, this would be the first daily close Not the first, it would be the first significant daily close through this level. Okay. First significant daily close through this level. We shared this in the newsletter, and this was the target. So we already hit that today. So the next target brings up right around 750. So if you paid attention to the newsletter, you probably were in this trade already anyway. So you probably are already out of it too. Let's see. Sushi, another one that is going to be extremely strong, I think, into the bull market, has just been moving one way. So prior structure for this, you really just have this, right? So this is this is Binance's chart. There's obviously more price history than this, but this is a consolidation that we put in on the way down, and now we're about to reclaim that. I think that you are going to be in price discovery for a long time with Sushi. So what was the high on Sushi? It was well above this, but that was a ridiculous high off of Uniswap. So if we're able to close above, if we're able to get above 3, I think that you're going to hit 6 pretty quick. So you close above 3, right? We're above right now. Where are we? We're at 279. You close above 3 and you close above these highs back here. It looks like you're just starting to hold a prior consolidation. You're speaking to the rest of the market too, right? It's just telling you that this thing is moving in one direction only. Completely retraced this structure, and in a very bullish fashion, right? You have sort of this swing failure through that low, reclaim it, V-shape reversal, nuking through levels that it created on the way down. These are kind of micro pivots, but above 3, I think that I think you're going to be sending this up to 6 pretty soon. So I think that Sushi is going to be, Sushi has been tremendously strong this whole entire, mind you that this was a big sell-off after DeFi sort of bubbled over. Aave, on a weekly time frame, Aave BTC. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at Aave BTC, on what chart though? So Aave, Bitcoin. Yeah, it has been showing relative weakness the last couple of weeks, but BTC has been BTC has been gaining most of the attention, right? So we're looking at we're looking at a daily, excuse me, I said weekly. So this is Aave BTC, and it's not really bearish. So this is a nice reversal right here off of a previous structural level. So extending this forward. All right. This doesn't look really bearish to me. I don't think that it's a bearish retest of this. I think that you're just going to get over time something that does this. And this put in a huge move. So for it to take its time is completely normal. But I don't think that you're going to be back below here anytime soon. I think that this is going to probably end up doing something like this because Bitcoin is probably going to be doing this, right? And this is going to, a lot of things are going to probably underperform BTC in the next couple of months. I'd say, or the next, I think that the end of January and then February are going to be tremendous for alts. Let's see. So then ETH, I want to take a look at ETH because ETH has shown relative weakness compared to BTC lately. But I just want to remind everyone, it's relative weakness, and we knew that this was going to happen. If you're following along right now and you've been following along for the last couple of months, if you followed my feed, I've probably said this, I don't know, 100 times, that when Bitcoin breaks the all-time high, everything's going to suffer. So it's a temporary suffering though, right? So I don't care about this chart. I know this chart already, right? I don't need to look at the chart to know that it's underperforming BTC. I know that Bitcoin is going to attract most of the attention initially. So I think that's completely normal. Retesting, we've already retested this significant level back here, but we could do this over and over again, right? I don't think that it's going to constantly underperform Bitcoin. I think that this is clearly not a good thing when you completely retrace this impulsive move, but I think that you could probably end up ranging. And also, a lot of people are trading the ETH USD pair, right? You got to remember, it's not just ETH BTC pair, right? ETH USD pair as well. It's underperforming BTC right now, though. So there's really not too much to say other than, yeah, we know it's underperforming. So when you're looking at a BTC chart, just remember you're looking at how it's performing relative to BTC. And right now we know that it's underperforming BTC because almost everything is, right? Looking at the ETH USD chart, all right, we are sitting right above, the last significant level, which is right around 617, this daily high. right? If we look at the weekly level, that is down at 601. So ultimately, you know, if you start basing out around here, that'd be completely normal. Okay, we would want to see that ETH at least maintains market structure. We don't want to see, I mean, it's not that we don't want to. I don't think that ETH is going to be doing anything tremendously bearish in the near future relative to BTC. So I don't think that ETH is going to be, you know, breaking down like this as Bitcoin continues to move on and nuke upward. I think that it could end up consolidating sideways longer, right? Because again, Bitcoin has most of the attention, but we could be wrong and we could know pretty quickly as well. How do you see BTC on December 31st? How do I see it on December 31st? I mean, how do I see it on December 31st? I see it right here. I don't know what that means. I mean, in the last day of the year, I mean, ultimately at that point, everyone who was going to take profits, right, this tax season would have. I don't know, honestly. I'm not sure. I think that I don't think that this is going to continue straight up. I think that we are, you know, we're probably going to be forming a range, and don't take this too seriously, but you're probably going to be forming a range under 30, right, for quite some time. And I don't know why I'm saying 30. I have a feeling we're going to overextend again. So I have a feeling that we're gonna consolidate and then overextend a lot again. Just look at a Tesla chart and how many times people thought that that was going to lead to a larger correction. You got one day pullback and then you had a ridiculous move upward. So yeah, dude, I don't know. I don't know where, or Sweet Canary, sorry. I don't know where Bitcoin's going to be on the 31st. Let's look back at previous 31st. Is there any kind of anything that was written, right, that we could see? Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, right? Look at this though. We've had a really big move, broke the all-time high. If you were to bet on what is more likely to show up sooner, right? If you're just looking at this, what is more likely to show up sooner? And I say sooner because you said the 31st and that's close. So let's call the next month. Let's say that the next month is, or quarter. Let's talk quarter, right? Next quarter is what's considered soon. We're a big market now, so we're a big boy market now, so we might as well talk in big boy terms. So next quarter, so up until this point, what do we think is more likely to happen? Do we think that Bitcoin is more likely to be trending or ranging after this move? I think that you could expect that we're closer to the range than we are to an equal sized trending move. I think that you can get overextension where you do hit something like 30, as ridiculous as that sounds, but then I think that we're closer to doing something like this. Just markets have to they have to do that over time. They can't just they can continue to go up, but Jesus, that is unhealthy. So a month, 2 months even of back and forth price action at some point should be expected. Where if you thought this was bad, it's probably going to be worse than that, right? You could have something that looks like this, a week like this, a week like this, another, just to give you the idea of volatility, right? And it can't look like that, obviously, because open and closes have to be the same. But, yeah. I just expect that at some point we're moving into a larger range again. And it could be something that slowly or gradually moves upward, but I wouldn't expect this to continue up to 50K from here without having put in a breather before 30K. So I just have a feeling that we're looking at that at January. And so put it that way. You said 31st. Sounds kind of ridiculously precise to try to come up with something, but I would say January, February, that the alts are going to outperform because BTC probably takes a breather. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about ADA. I don't have a good take on fundamentals with a lot of projects. I mean, this has how's it done against BTC first? Yeah, like everything else, underperforming BTC. I don't know a whole lot about what is developing, but I will just say from a structural standpoint, this is your monthly, but if we're looking at this on the weekly chart, one thing stands out: support, extending this moving forward. You're looking at really the flip, loss, continuation, resistance, right? This whole area looks like it is flipping now, right? So if you look at this high acting as support now, are we back within this structure? Are we on our way back within this structure right here, back within this prior range, or brief period of back and forth price action looking back at the high? I don't know. I don't really know a whole lot about ADA, to be honest. EGLD. Wow, it's a nice Bitcoin chart, right? That's a pretty significant move. So this is sort of like AVE and SNX, but it had a much larger drawdown against BTC. So AVE and SNX did the same sort of V-shaped move, but closer to the high. This came all the way back down to prior structure, violated it, right? Most of the time, the better case is when you hold that structure, but we came close to the prior range high. If you're looking at this little consolidation down here, it's not a consolidation the way you normally see it where it's tight, but it was a range price was stuck in. This is it's a pretty bullish move up, right? Yeah, I'm not sure about this in terms of anything to tell you technically speaking, but I mean, if I had to go off of anything, it looks like this is probably going to reverse its trend, right? This is against BTC. This is more like it with the USD chart. So one thing I would say is I like things like this when we are in the beginning of a new bull market. It doesn't mean I buy it right here, but I would bet on strength continuing. So things that have a narrative right now, things that are strong, things that have a big backing, that are going viral, I would bet on them continuing to do well in the future. If you see things that are dead now, stay away. So a BTC chart that looks like shit. This is the level that you'd look to act as support again, but you never wanted to come all the way back down here in the first place. Bullish market would have support, resistance, resistance, and then this should have, if this was a real breakout that was worth its weight in salt, this should have held, right? It didn't though. So this is not a good looking chart against BTC. So as a reminder, always against BTC. So nothing is going to be really good looking against Bitcoin right now. That's a one ugly ass wick. So treating the top side of this structure as support, cool, basically doing the same thing as BTC, coming back to that prior level. I mean, against BTC, coming back to a significant level within structure. If you look at this on the daily, you're forming a somewhat of a range. I don't know anything about this, but I will tell you that I wouldn't get involved with it. And if I did, if you said, hey, there's one area where you would get involved, it would have to be back above this high. I'd have to see something on the higher time frame, some level that has been a significant turning point, which was here, and then again a little bit sooner. I'd have to see that we were able to change this story, right? So change the story and now sit above these levels. Okay, and sometimes it's just better to use a line chart. So this level, same general area. We've been knocked down twice now, right, after losing this structure. So if you're able to reclaim that, that's fine, but I don't know anything about this. So if you have a position in it, hopefully it has hopefully you have a good reason for it. Wi-Fi, I think, is going to continue to do really well into the future. Yeah. So Wi-Fi was one of the earlier, incredible moves we saw. Sort of like AVE and SNX. I think it's in the same category. I think that Wi-Fi was a little bit more crowded than every other one. So I think that it's easier for this to have a little bit more trouble regaining that really ridiculous momentum it had. And it's also, from a psychological standpoint, it's at a disadvantage because it's $27,957. So the problem is people don't know that they could buy things in portion. So that's super unfortunate if you have a new pair and you're in it and you're waiting for momentum to pick up from maybe new retail, and they're just not educated and they don't know that this is, not the case. You have to buy it in it's not like a stock, right? You don't have to buy one share at least, even though now they have fractional shares. So you sit at a disadvantage in this because of that, but I think ultimately over time value accrues to this. I'm just saying, why is this looking somewhat weaker compared to like SNX or Aave when they're kind of in the same boat? It's probably because now there are pairs, because there's new retail coming in. Those newer pairs are attractive, one because they're new, they're hyped, and also they look cheap, right? Aave is $87. I think when I got involved in crypto, that was like the price of ETH, right around there. But I can't actually remember if it was that or it was like ETH was like, honestly, $300. Let's go all the way back to September 2017. So ETH was, it was around 300. I was wrong. I think Litecoin at the time was around 70 or $50. Can't remember. It was very exciting. I was a Litecoin trader. So I think Wi-Fi is going to outperform. I think it's going to struggle for a little while, though, because I think the value that accrues to it is on the basis of fundamentals, and I think that your short-term momentum and speculative plays won't take on to that right away, and this will take a little bit more time. But if you look at that's against BTC, so it's underperformed BTC from a relative basis. But the USD chart, it's a nice structure. I think it's still a nice structure. Clearly you have a pretty obvious weekly swing high, highest weekly close more locally. That is at 28,825. So if we're able to close above this, is this just one consolidation that leads to a breakout? I would assume so. I just think it's probably going to take a little bit longer. I think that you could safely get into a Wi-Fi position with a stop below these lows, and start scaling into position on the premise that these lows hold over time, and that we maintain sort of this pace of acceleration of grinding against this level. Tomorrow this could be already back at 32, but that's sort of my thoughts on why it's maybe underperforming a little bit more than the other DeFi blue chips, because make no mistake, Wi-Fi is a DeFi blue chip. I prefer Aave to Wi-Fi. Yeah, I think Wi-Fi was a little bit more crowded. And for the way that I'm approaching the market right now, part of the small little bit of what determines my interest in something is how other people are going to look at it. So SNX had a really nice move today, and now we're back at 607, but we went all the way up to 663. I prefer Aave to Wi-Fi right now for momentum, and SNX for sure. But I think that's going to wrap it up, guys. I don't know if there's really anything else to talk about. Just wanted to do like an hour of charting. If you watch the other crypto and coffee streams, there's a little bit more banter in the beginning, a little bit more touching on current events maybe. I don't know if there's anything you really need to overthink right now. I think that's a more important thing to go over is don't overthink things. I see people like sharing charts of like what's going on in XYZ exchange and exchange flows, and Binance was trading at this level and then someone deposited this much onto this, and then there was a heat map order block that came up on this exchange, and I'm like, oh man, you're gonna fuck this up. Like you're looking for way too many answers, and I use this phrase a lot. It's like, don't give a $10 answer, or don't think that a question requires a $10 answer when a $1 answer will suffice. Don't be fancy right now, right? The wind is at your back. Our job has become a lot less complicated, and the reason why people will lose money in the bear market in the bull market, is because they might overcomplicate things. They might act like both sides of the trade are worth taking equally. Meaning, for example, if we look at back to BTC, oh, we have the value area high. Oh, this is a range. Let's play it like a range. Or let's assume that this is the consolidation that leads to continuation, right? So then the highs become less of something that we want to look to maybe short the way that we would if the market had been ranging for a long time period. I think that there's you don't want to overcomplicate things right now. Get into analysis paralysis, and then you're just missing out on taking the obvious longs, which is like You want to buy the dips the dips that you could, you know, this dip down here, you could have invalidated the trade by placing a stop below here, and you would have had at least the most crude basic stop placement, right? Without taking into consideration volatility, without taking much into consideration. And if you got stopped out, hell, you're stopped out. But, you know, I don't want to say this, but in these conditions, I've said it that yesterday in BlockRoots stream, I said this on my Twitter post, talking about a tail risk stop. My tail risk stop, I am more prone to having a stop that is further away because it's sort of like you know that the cavalry is behind you. In these conditions, you have a little bit more, I think, faith in position if it's a long. You know, let's say it gets away from you. Let's say the market nukes down, right? Okay, so you long here, you didn't place a stop. The market nukes right to this level, okay? And it's sitting at the 0.5 fib. And your entry is up here. I think that on balance probabilities, well, I'll ask, do you think that this might be one that you should just step away from and it needs a day or two before it's back up here at least, right? Or that if this occurs as a whole, is there a high probability that this is the bottom? I think that all these answers are increasingly yes. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm a little bit more confident that there is firepower behind me that is going to show up. So if you miss a trade down here, I'm not entirely worried about getting back in it, right? So it implies all these things with regard to the long side of things. It implies that there's a certain amount of strength to the long side of things, rather, or the long side of the market. Why same things? So yeah, let's give away that 0.01 BTC though. Okay, so I think we did enough charts. Gonna have to get rid of all this shit. Not say it's shit, but this is I want to keep my list kind of just a few things on them. All right, so let's see. Random number generator. We're going to pick from the last 30, and then I'll do the next 50 for the next one. All right, so generate one between 30. Okay, 12. That was fast. So 12. I'm going to have to go up to 500 at some point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Connected. All right, connected. Linhara's Joseph just won. I'll have to post that. All you guys have just seen that we did this with a random number generator, just to show you that it's not bullshit. The next number, the next number. Okay, so Linhara's just won, 0.01 BTC. All right, so Monday we'll get back to the, I guess, more structured stream. I just wanted to throw up a bunch of charts. I didn't want to go today without doing a stream. I saw some people on the Twitter were like, hey, where's the stream? This is clearly not a crypto and coffee stream. There's no coffee. It's not early in the day. So yeah. All right, guys. It's been a pleasure. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Just a parting note. There's a lot of people right now that are saying things like, let's see. They're saying things like, oh, we're going into the weekend and, things are going to calm down and cool down. Oh, the weekend is useless. Yeah, that's not the case the last couple of weeks. All right, so be careful extending things that have occurred in certain market contexts and certain market conditions well beyond the point of where they expire. So you have to constantly keep up with what current conditions are and how they're evolving. And so far, the weekends haven't been, they haven't been boring. All right, there's been a good amount of activity on them. And you don't want to confuse, so if the market is thin on the weekend, that's one thing. But it doesn't mean, you could have thin conditions on the weekend where the market moves a lot, right? Because the market there's not as much stickiness and it's able to be a little bit more volatile. Or you could have a condition where the weekend moves a lot because there is actually a good amount of bidding that's taking place. And I think that that's actually the case. I don't think that the markets have been moving the last couple of weekends because, it's just thin. I think we've seen a good amount of buying activity on the weekend. So keep that in mind. Your profile is two-way logical. Okay, Abraham, thank you. All right, so I don't know who just won again. That was Linhara's Joseph. So I'll have to find out who that is. And, yeah, have them get me to send their Bitcoin address on Twitter. All right, guys. Everyone have a fantastic weekend, and I will talk to you soon.